pitfalls.
Thank you for having me.
And we thank you for being here, Barnaby.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we're really going to get into something interesting. It sits right at the crossroads of finance, real estate, and, well, human psychology. We're talking about selling a mobile home park, an MHP.
Yeah, and this isn't like selling stocks or, a regular house even. For these long-time owners, this is often the big exit. They put in decades of pure sweat equity.
Right, dealing with tenants, maintenance nightmares. I bet every owner has a story like the Great Septic Scare of '03 or something.
Exactly. It's more than just property. It's their legacy,
Totally. And then, boom, they decide to sell, and suddenly their phone's ringing off the hook.
Constant calls. Cash offer. Close fast. We'll take it as is.
All pushing for that quick, clean break. And that pressure must be immense.
It really is. Because on one side, you have this desire for, relief. Just be done with it. But on the other side, there's this deep nagging feeling about these quick offers. Plus, honestly, the huge emotional weight of leaving behind something they built over, 20, 30 years?
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to the core question, right? Why do some of the smartest, most experienced park owners, why do they pass on that seemingly easy cash? Why do they choose to, as you put it, kind of graduate? They stop being the landlord.
And they become the bank. They opt for seller carry financing.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We need to unpack the psychology, the behavioral side, but also the actual financial mechanics that convince these owners seller carry is the better path.
Yeah, what makes them see it not just as an option, but maybe the superior option? What flips that switch?
Let's start with the emotional side. Because selling something you've poured 30 years into, that's not just a transaction.
Absolutely not. And the first big psychological lever here is something called loss aversion. Basically, humans feel the pain of losing something about twice as strongly as the pleasure of gaining something equivalent. It's a powerful bias.
Okay, so how does that apply here? Are you saying you don't pitch the benefits of seller carry first?
Not directly. Instead, you frame the all-cash deal in terms of what they lose. It's subtle, but critical.
So less, look how much interest you could make, and more.
More like, okay, let's talk about what taking this cash offer costs you. First, you quantify the lost future income. Tens, maybe hundreds of thousands in interest they won't receive because they didn't carry the note.
Mm-hmm.
And second, the immediate hit, the tax man. You frame it as, here's the 30% tax bite you pay tomorrow if you take this lump sum.
Wow. Okay, so it's not a sales pitch anymore. It's like a regret prevention plan.
Precisely. You're showing them how the choice that feels safe and simple, the all-cash offer, actually costs them more, potentially a lot more in the long run.
And that's powerful because it flips the script.
Yeah,
the
sure.
fear isn't about the complexity of seller carry anymore.
The fear becomes about the loss from taking the cash. Suddenly, the slightly more complex option feels like the responsible, wealth-preserving move. It aligns with who they are, savvy operators.
But is it just about the money and the taxes? I mean, these are people who've weathered recessions running these parks. Doesn't their pride, their identity play a role?
Oh, absolutely. That's the next layer. You can't just talk dollars and cents. Their identity is tied up in this. They're veterans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Survivors.
So how does seller carry appeal to that? A quick cash out almost feels anticlimactic.
It can, yeah. So you frame seller carry differently. You position it as a badge of mastery.
A badge of mastery.
The conversation shifts. It becomes, look, you ran this park for 25 years. You know it inside and out, the land, the tenants, the local market, better than anyone from Wall Street ever could. So now leverage that deep knowledge. Don't just walk away. Be the bank. You hold the note, you earn the interest, you maintain a level of control, but without the day-to-day headaches.
Ah, I see. It taps into that feeling of sunk costs too, maybe. All those years, all that effort. A cash sale feels like just walking away from it all.
Exactly. There's this underlying fear that taking the cash somehow invalidates all that past struggle. Seller carry lets the park keep working for them.
So you're essentially saying the income they get isn't just interest.
It's dividends on sweat equity. That phrasing resonates. It honors their history with the property. The sale becomes a continuation, not an end point.
And what about the community aspect? A lot of these owners, especially the long-term ones, actually care about their residents.
That's a really important point. Seller carry gives them control over who takes over. They can choose a buyer they believe will treat the residents fairly, not just sell to the highest bidder, some faceless corporation that might jack up rents immediately.
So it protects their legacy in that sense, too. It feels more responsible.
It does. It adds a layer of dignity to the whole process.
Okay, the psychology makes sense, the pride factor.
Yeah.
But seller financing is more complex than just taking a check. How do you overcome that natural resistance to complexity, the need for cognitive ease?
You have to make it feel simple, even if the underlying structure is sophisticated. You strip out the jargon.
So what's the core message?
It boils down to this. You get a check in the mail every single month. Predictable income. No more calls about leaky roofs or late rent. Just income.
And I guess you compare it to things they already trust.
Absolutely. You relate the seller-held note to concepts they understand and view as safe, like an annuity, maybe, or think of it like a second pension plan they created themselves, or even a really stable bond.
That takes the scariness out of the financial instrument itself.
Right. It makes it feel familiar, manageable.
But okay, let's hit the big one, the main fear. What if the buyer stops paying? Every landlord's nightmare, right? Having to foreclose, becoming the operator again.
That's the critical objection, and you can't brush it off. You have to validate it first. That's a smart question. Let's talk about that worst-case scenario.
And then, how do you counter it?
You flip the script on risk.
Yeah.
You emphasize their position of power because they are the bank. They hold the mortgage. The park itself, that's the collateral.
Okay, so walk me through that default scenario. What actually happens to the seller?
If the buyer defaults, the seller keeps all the payments made to date, principal and interest. They keep the buyer's down payment, which is usually substantial in these deals.
Right.
And then they get the entire park back. The income-producing asset returns to them.
Wait a minute. So if the buyer defaults, the seller keeps the down payment, keeps all the payments made, and gets the park back, that sounds almost good for the seller.
For a well-structured deal, yes. That's the reframe. Default isn't just a risk. It's potentially a second payday. Suddenly, the seller carrying the note looks safer than the person who took cash and now has to worry about investing it in a volatile market. Their investment is secured by the physical asset they know better than anyone.
And you normalize it by saying,
Look, big banks do this every day. They lend against collateral. That's how they operate. Why shouldn't you use the same secure strategy, especially with an asset you understand so deeply?
that's a powerful counter to the status quo bias, that tendency people have to just stick with the familiar, the all-cash offer, even if it's not the best option.
Exactly. You have to actively reframe what constitutes risk. Is the risk carrying a well-secured note on an asset you know? Or is the risk picking a huge lump sum, paying immediate taxes, and then trying to navigate the stock market or whatever?
Yeah, when you put it like that, the cash suddenly seems like the bigger gamble. Babysitting $1 million in today's market plus the tax hit.
Well, the seller carry folks are getting steady checks, deferring taxes, sleeping well because their income isn't tied to the S&P 500's daily swings.
So cash looks volatile, seller carry looks stable, controlled.
That's the flip. You use that desire for safety against the all-cash offer.
But people don't always respond just to logic, right? Stories are more powerful. Tribal alignment, seeing someone like them succeed. Tell me more about that Jane and Joe example. Make it real.
Okay, Jane and Joe ran a really nice, clean 40-pad park down in South Carolina for about 20 years. Solid operators. Their big fears were, one, the huge tax bill if they took cash, and two, they genuinely liked their long-term residents. They worried a new corporate owner would just come in and clear house or double the rents.
Okay, so they opted for seller carry.
They did. They found a younger, local guy they felt good about, vetted him carefully. They carried, I think it was 80% of the price on a 10-year note, got a good down payment up front.
And the outcome?
The outcome is they get a check for $3,200 every month, passive income, taxes deferred, and zero stress about park operations.
Zero stress. That's the dream part.
Absolutely. They're literally, sitting on their porch, enjoying retirement, maybe traveling a bit, while the new owner is the one dealing with the plumbing issues or the city permits. That's the picture you paint.
That makes the financial concept feel tangible, desirable. Okay, but let's tackle the main practical objections head on. First one, what if I need a lump sum later? I'm locking my money up.
Fair point. But the note isn't dead money. It's an asset. First, you can often sell the note to a specialized note buyer if you need cash. You might take a discount, but it provides liquidity.
Okay.
Second, you can sometimes refinance it. And third, you can build in flexibility from the start with something called a callable balloon payment.
A callable balloon. Explain that quickly. How does that give the seller control?
Right. Usually a balloon payment means the buyer owes the rest at the end, say year 10. A callable balloon means the seller has the option, maybe year 5, to say, okay, I need the rest of the money now. they call the loan due.
So the buyer then has to refinance or pay it off?
Exactly. It gives the seller an escape hatch to get their lump sum if circumstances change, but on their terms, based on the contract, it adds significant flexibility.
That's a huge safety net. Okay, second big objection. Look, I just want to be done, finished, no ties.
And here you have to gently push back on the word done. You say you are done. You're done with the tenants, the toilets, the midnight calls. That part is finished. But you're not done earning from this valuable asset you spent half your life building. This lets it keep providing for you without the hassle.
It sounds like the final piece is maybe a little bit of ethical FOMO, fear of missing out.
A gentle nudge, yes. Not high pressure. You appeal to their identity as a smart planner. Maybe mention casually, I've talked to sellers who took the quick cash 5 years ago. Sometimes they look back and see the interest income they missed out on or the tax bill they paid, and they wish they'd at least considered carrying some paper.
So you're inviting them to be consistent with their own self-image, someone who makes wise, long-term decisions.
Precisely. It's about helping them make the choice that aligns with their legacy as a prudent business owner.
This whole framework, then, it really transforms the seller's role, doesn't it? From being this hands-on, often stressed-out operator
To becoming a sophisticated, passive financial player, holding a secure note, earning interest, managing taxes smartly.
So the ultimate takeaway here, the real mark of success for these sellers isn't just getting out fast.
No. It's about how long their money keeps working for them, efficiently and securely, long after they've stopped working in the business. That's the smarter play.
It's a fascinating look at how finance and psychology really intertwine in these big life decisions. Makes you think, doesn't it, about all those other situations where we take the easy or all-cash option. How often is that perceived safety actually costing us more in the long run, whether it's money or control or even just peace of mind? Something to chew on next time a deal seems almost too simple.